Hello, welcome to another review. Today I'm going to be reviewing Caskets' second album, Reflections. This was this is the sequel to Lost Souls. Or by sequel, I mean the second album. It's not that related, but honestly to me, it feels like a sequel, and I'll go into why just now. As much as I like Lost Souls, it's not the most original album out there. It definitely plays with elements from a lot of the post-hardcore bands you had going around that point, especially Bad Omens, Bring Me the Horizon, and there's others as well that have drawn inspiration with Caskets. I would even say some bands, maybe like Normandy, had sort of rubbed off some influence to this band, even though they've gone a little bit more hardcore than Normandy are at this point, because Normandy is more of an alternative rock band, so the comparison is not the best one, I know, but Caskets Reflections, it feels more like a sequel to me, in a term that you like the original, and when you want to go into what's coming up next, it doesn't quite deliver the same experience you wanted. And a lot of movies do that, unfortunately. It's not like John Wick, where you can have the first John Wick, it's badass and it tells the story well, and then have three others afterwards which somehow keep a really high quality, and a lot of fans really enjoy it. I don't think Caskets is one of those bands that have actually done that with this second album for sure. I'm going to be honest, Reflections is not, I wouldn't say it's nowhere near as good as Lost Souls. I think this is a big sort of confused step that they wanted to take. There's elements I feel like they wanted to push some unique ideas. At the same time, it's kind of muddled in with a lot of it just feeling like an average Caskets track, or at least average Casket tracks on a record. So some of the ones that stood out to me, I would say, were the best ones. Easily the first four. These are some of the best tracks on the record. Believe is one of the best singles. This makes for a pretty strong opener that I think rivals the only ones quite well. It's catchy, it's got some great instrumentation, and I love the vocals. It's gritty, it's hard, and it works really well. I think it's a strong opener. More Than Misery, arguably the best track on the record. I like the uncleans from the guest artist Tell, who makes an appearance for the bridge on it, giving it a sort of screamy breakdown, which I quite like, and I kind of wish Caskets do more of that. I think if Caskets go a little bit heavier, it's nice. We don't really get as much aggressive vocals on the previous album. You would get some here and there on a lot of tracks, like The Final Say, there's some screaming in there, but this is like a full-on breakdown, and that's what I like about More Than Misery. And then some other tracks feel like they're building a breakdown, and they don't go anywhere with it, and that's Too Late. The track Too Late. It generally has that sound that, oh crap, there's going to be a amazing breakdown, and they don't pursue it, and I don't understand why would you do that. It feels like you're piloting just an absolute fast rocket, and then you're just yanking it back down to earth just like that. It feels like everything you're looking forward to is just getting stripped away. It's kind of interesting. I will say though, it's one of the better tracks. As I mentioned, the first four tracks are great, and despite that, I love the vocals on this one. The refrain is definitely more refreshing, considering some of these ones feel like they would easily belong on Lost Souls, or they have a sort of influence that kind of is brought here. Maybe Caskets want to do something quite similar, so a lot of fans who are warming up to their material can start to see where they're really changing. And Reflections has a little bit of change. Songs like Hate Me is quite different. It's got a very consistent, softer vocal pattern over some of the harshest instrumentation on this record. So you definitely have got some unique ideas here. But when you're going into some of the tracks like Guiding Light or 6 Feet Down, I start to just feel like it's not as original, and some of the ideas they really want to push just gets lost in translation from writing to the final concept of what we have. And that's kind of why I felt the first half is where you have the strongest stuff, and the second half is more experimented with some good ideas, but I feel like it's often lost, and that's kind of my problem with it. Definitely some of the weakest stuff in my opinion. I'm going to be honest, I did not really find By the Sound a strong single. I felt this was the weakest of the five, and I just don't know why. I guess the approach is trying to push out a more emo direction, but I just couldn't really get into it. I like Matt Flood's vocals, but here, this one was just not one I could really go into. By the sound, I will listen to on the record when I'm kind of giving it a spin, but it's just one of the instances that reminds me that we're heading into the weaker aspect of this record. And it's such a shame, because In the Silence, it's definitely got some elements I like. It does feel like a Caskets track in the way that it could have belonged on the previous album, but I do appreciate some of the ideas that they have brought with that track as well, and I think it's got some great instrumentation. Silhouettes is a track that I really wanted to enjoy, but I just couldn't really get into it. I felt if they're trying to push a softer song, they should have gone a bit softer and maybe make it a ballad. We had Hopes and Dreams do the exact same thing on Lost Souls, and while that's my least favourite, I still think it's a lot stronger than Silhouettes, because the way we're going with Silhouettes, it just kind of feels like a watered down Caskets track, as they're still trying to push down those instrumentals. We're trying to get some good riffs in here and there, but I just don't find it very catchy or as enticing. Guiding Light is the glass heart of the record. We've heard this probably more than the other tracks, because this is the single that stood out. This is the big one, the lead single, so it makes sense if this is the glass heart of the record. It's not meant to be the best track, it's not meant to be the most powerful, but it's supposed to give you like an insight of what we could expect, and with this I definitely expected something a little bit more than what the end result. Better Way Out is honestly not that great of an album closer. Nothing to Hide, I think, just kicks it into the dust immediately. Without hesitation, I could choose that. Better Way Out, it's got some good ideas, but I just kind of feel like around this point, this is where I just think the album's already feeling like a sort of replica of its previous ideas, but going into, I'd probably say it's a little softer. There's elements that try to be heavier, as we've seen with the first two tracks, and then they kind of water that in with some of the ideas, but for the most part, I just think this is a lighter album that's more experimented to have a fresh sound to it, and I definitely think the lyrics fit. I think the instrumentals work. I just think it's the vocals that also gives me a distinguishable, easy identification that it just feels like what we've heard before. Even some tracks have similar choruses to some of the stuff on the first album. But yeah, that's kind of all I really need to say about Caskets' new album. If you're a big fan of Caskets, then I think you'll easily like it, but while I do enjoy the band, I don't think this is nearly as good as Lost Souls. Lost Souls is a really good debut album, but this, I just don't think it follows up nearly as well. So I'm going to give it a 2.5 out of 5. So I hope you guys enjoy. Thank you for watching, and see you guys in the next video.